From KVUE News in Austin, you're watching Texas This Week with Ashley Goodo.
Good Sunday morning. It has been a week in Texas politics. Republican infighting, a one-day-long special session, the Attorney General. Whew. Let's get to the three things you need to know in Texas politics. It looks like the United States of America won't default on its loans. After much debate, Congress sent the Fiscal Responsibility Act to the president, raising the debt ceiling. But the bill contains contentious provisions, such as spending cuts and job requirements for people getting federal food assistance. And that led to a mixed bag of votes. Looking at the Central Texas delegation, U.S. Representatives Lloyd Doggett, Michael McCall, and August Pfluger voted for the bill to keep America from defaulting. Representatives John Carter, Greg Casar, Michael Cloud, Chip Roy, and Pete Sessions voted against the bill. Over in the U.S. Senate, Senator John Cornyn voted for the bill, while Senator Ted Cruz voted against it. On Thursday, the Texas House of Representatives Board of Managers in charge of the impeachment of Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton introduced the two attorneys who will present the case against Paxton during the Senate trial.
The people of the state of Texas are entitled to know whether their top cop is a crook.
Dick DeJaren and Rusty Hardin, two heavy hitters with more than 100 years of trial experience between the two of them and a list of celebrity and high-profile clients. The Texas Senate has not set the rules for the hearing yet, but the Houston-based attorneys are calling for a completely public, transparent proceeding. In the meantime, Governor Greg Abbott appointed John Scott, the former Texas Secretary of State, as interim Attorney General to run the office while Paxton is suspended and awaits the Senate hearing. Scott took the oath of office Wednesday. The Fort Worth attorney is not new to the AG's office. Scott served under Governor Abbott when he was the Attorney General, working as the Deputy AG for civil litigation. The Texas legislature adjourned sine die on Monday, but not for long. Just a few hours later, Governor Greg Abbott called lawmakers back to the Capitol for a special session, charging them with passing property tax relief and a bill increasing penalties for human smuggling. The next day, the conflict between the House and Senate over property taxes really came to a head. James Barragan, politics reporter for the Texas Tribune, joined me to talk about the growing rift under the dome. I don't know about you, but to me, this past week felt like a month. So much has happened underneath that pink dome.
Certainly, yeah. I mean, we were all kind of looking for that end of the session, and it just kept going and kept going and kept going. So yes, definitely has taken a couple of years off my life.
Right. Let's talk about it. Let's start with Monday. It was the 140th day of the regular session, aka the last day, sine die. There were a lot of priority bills for the state's top three leaders, that didn't make it over the finish line.
Yeah, I mean, I think the first one has definitely got to be property taxes, because even until that last day, which, as you know, Ashley, is just a day of pomp and circumstance, celebration, lots of families. But this day unusually started with, last minute deals trying to be made, and we waited for hours and hours and hours for that not to happen. So property tax is definitely a big one. School vouchers, we knew had been a no-go for a while, but still it officially died that day. And a couple of border security bills, super important topic for Texans, super important topic for Governor Greg Abbott and for both chambers, but somehow did not get done. So they definitely left a lot of points on the board that they had wanted to get done.
Yeah. Governor Greg Abbott wasted no time in calling a special session. In fact, the notice came out about 3 hours after the Senate adjourned that there would be a special session.
Yeah, it was not a surprise to any of us in the press corps. I was at a celebration of sine die when we got the official email that the special session had started 3 minutes ago. So the governor wants to show that he's eager to get these issues done, and he did so on Monday night.
You know, you kind of mentioned this a little bit, but lawmakers in both of the chambers spent much of the day Monday trying to come to an agreement on property tax, relief. Before we really dive into all of that drama and everything that happened after that, I want you to remind our viewers what the House wanted versus what the Senate wanted when it comes to property taxes.
Well, the session started off with the governor saying that he wanted the biggest the biggest tax cut in general in state history for property owners or for Texans. So both chambers agreed. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and House Speaker Dave Phelan said, yes, like, let's run on this. We're going to try our best. But they had very different approaches. The House wanted to do an appraisal cap. And the Senate was very big on a homestead exemption increase from the current $40,000 to $100,000, which would help homeowners. They had gone back and forth, a big tug of war between the two chambers, with them not really communicating a whole lot and sort of just giving passive aggressive like side comments to each other. And that continued up until the end nearly, when the governor came out trying to broker a deal. And then in the last minute, he sort of came up with his own idea about rate compression.
So on Tuesday, just before the Senate gavelled in for the first special session, Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick made some pretty damning comments about Speaker Dave Phelan and why he was so set on appraisal caps.
I couldn't figure it out. And one day he said in one of those meetings, he said, I own a lot of property. Not that it's about me. Now, anytime anyone says it's not about me, it's usually about them. I could never figure why he wanted to do that. And he'll say, well, it just brings my rents down. Well, yeah, if you bring your rents down, well, that means the taxpayers are helping you keep your rents low so your buildings stay full and your shopping centers stay full. So we didn't do that. I'm sure he's watching now and steam's coming out of his ears. I'm just telling you, I couldn't figure it out until he said it.
Talk to us about really the meaning behind some of what he said there.
Yeah, I mean, the animosity between Speaker Phelan and Lieutenant Governor Patrick has been no secret for anybody that watches the Capitol. And I think this is the biggest difference of opinions, the biggest acrimony between a speaker and a lieutenant governor that I've seen in my time covering the Texas legislature, because these guys, is very clear they do not like each other.
The Senate then passes its property tax relief bill, which reduces the school tax rate, that compression, and gives homeowners a $100,000 homestead exemption. A few hours later, the House meets, really throws down the gauntlet in what the House did on Tuesday. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, I mean, it really was a sort of take it or leave it situation that the House put the Senate in. So I had mentioned that the governor had said he wants that a compression of the property tax rate for school districts brought down with some payments from the state, which is an idea that conservative think tanks like the Texas Public Policy Foundation have pushed for years. It is very difficult to achieve because it's easy to do now when we have a budget surplus, but it gets harder to do when we do not have the money around, and it is something that might necessitate cuts to public education in the future, which is the concern. It's very interesting to see now the governor saying, yes, this is the plan I want to go with, and the House saying, okay, we'll go along with that. That wasn't our plan to begin with, but we'll go along with it. And then the lieutenant governor saying on his end in the Senate, sure, we'll do some rate compression, but our main source of property tax relief is going to be homestead exemption because it would benefit homeowners the most, much more than I think the compression rate, which benefits both homeowners and businesses, which is a big Republican establishment support area. But in the Senate, they really want to go for that homestead exemption. And it's put Dan Patrick at odds with people who are usually his political partners and allies.
Can they both come away from this claiming success, or are we going to see winners and losers when this is all said and done, you think?
No, I think at this point we've passed the Rubicon. I mean, I think one way that the governor can sort of save a situation if Dan Patrick gets the upper hand again is by saying, hey, all I wanted is the biggest tax cut in state history. But I think at this point, like I said, we've crossed the Rubicon. One has pointed their flag down on homestead exemptions. The other one says compression rate needs to go down until we eliminate the M&O taxes. And so they've planted their flags, and we're going to find out here in the next couple of months who's really in charge of the state of Texas in politics.
The Senate is scheduled to convene at the Capitol on Tuesday. Of course, we will be watching to see the lawmakers' next move. That's Texas This Week.